Listen to a lecture in a food science class.
Good morning, class. Is anyone aware that a boycott in 1776 is still affecting the American cheese industry today? To introduce our unit on commercial cheese production, I'm going to talk about this boycott. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term boycott, a boycott refers to when people refuse to buy a product or use a service in protest of something. Before we discuss the boycott in 1776, we must briefly discuss where cheese comes from. There are more than 400 kinds of cheese with over 2,000 different names. Cheese is made from milk. Most cheese is made from cow's milk, although many cheeses are made from goat, sheep, and even water buffalo and camel's milk. The fat content in the milk from each animal differs, causing the color of the milk to vary. Some milk looks creamy white, while other milk looks almost pale yellow. The cheese made from the milk thus ranges in color from creamy white to very pale yellow. All cheese is naturally some shade of white. What about cheddar cheese and American cheese? Well, you're right. These cheeses are clearly orange. And you've identified the effect of the boycott I mentioned at the very beginning of class. To understand the boycott, you need to understand first that cheddar cheese and American cheese are the same cheese. Second, you need to know that cheddar cheese is naturally white. Just before 1776, the colonists in America were angry with the King of England. One of the key issues was taxation without representation. Taxation without representation was a phrase that summarized the frustrations many colonists felt with the colonial system. They wanted representatives who could voice their concerns to the king. The colonists felt it was unfair that they were required to pay ever-increasing taxes on products imported from England without any representation of their concerns to the king. Many American colonists protested by boycotting English products. The most famous of these is tea. You've perhaps heard people say that they like to drink Boston tea. This is actually hot water rather than tea. Some Bostonians prefer drinking hot water instead of tea to avoid paying taxes on English tea, and this hot water became known as Boston tea. And of course, you've heard of the Boston Tea Party of 1773, when American colonists dressed as Indians dumped hundreds of chests of tea into the harbor to avoid paying a tax imposed by the British on tea. A lesser-known product that the colonists boycotted was cheddar cheese. Many colonists refused to buy English cheddar because they would have had to pay huge taxes on it. To distinguish American cheese, American farmers added carrot juice to their milk. American cheese was easily identified as orange cheddar, and the colonists strongly preferred American cheese over the more heavily taxed English cheese. After producing orange cheddar for several years, American farmers became used to adding the coloring, and consumers became used to buying orange cheese. The boycotts and the war ended, but the orange coloring in American cheese remained. Over 200 years later, white cheddar is still a novelty in American stores. Orange cheddar is still considerably more common. Well, that's all for today. Tomorrow we'll discuss commercial production of soft cheeses. Please read Chapter 12 in your text before class.